Welcome back to another video. And in this tutorial today, what we're going to look at is we shall just first of all proceed from where we stopped. Maybe to give you a quick recap, in the previous video we were still talking about Laravel CRUD operation, or the Laravel CRUD from scratch, and we looked at part 1, where we had already discussed what is CRUD. CRUD simply stands for create, read, update and delete. Now you're going to realize that we looked at the first part. The first concept is the create, where we looked at how we are able to add data to the database. Now in this tutorial, what we are going to look at is now how do we then retrieve data, how do we then pick data from the database and we display it to the user. So simply what we are going to see is how we are able to interact with the model and we pick the data from the table, then we display it on the front end. That's the page or any page that we shall be using to display that data. So without wasting time, let me simply proceed. We used in our previous tutorial, we are using this Apex demo project. So I will still open the same because I want to proceed from where we had stopped instead of creating a new one. Make sure that you maintain the same project so that you don't lose out on the steps. So I'll just open this Apex demo again, then come here with CMD. We know all these steps per now, then code space dot, then we shall be able to open our project in the VS Code. Now, having opened our project in the VS Code, we know very well, even when we are looking at the create, or how in our previous tutorial we looked at how we are able to create our data in the database, we realize that the steps are almost similar. So whenever I open your project, whatever you think about, you have to think about the create first. You have to think about the create first. Yes, from thinking about the create, whenever I open your project, you have to think about the first concept, or the first step is to create a view. So you first of all create a view. After creating the view, that's when you proceed to the controller, and then later on that's where you shall see other things. So first thing first, we shall first of all look at this resources folder, and it's within the resources folder that we shall create our view. But now the view that we want to create is called the index. This one is what we want to create, if you can see, but already in our previous tutorial we had created it. And let's first just check what is inside there. We just said this is our home page, so it's this view that we are going to use as we shall be displaying our data to the user. So that's what we are going to do. So now instead of this, now we shall now instead use the index. So having created this index already, we shall need now to link this index with the controller. So already we shall be maintaining this student controller. It's the one that we are going to use, but in our previous tutorial, the first tutorial, we had already created this, and the index we are linking to this home page or the home controller. But right now, since I want to be displaying the student data, so I'm going to change this. So instead of picking it from here, I'll just cut it from here. So I'm shifting this, and I want to be able to return the same route inside this. So we want to use the same controller. So instead of using this home controller, I've already changed it a bit. I wanted to have this index.bread.php to be the one displaying the actual students whom we have recorded in the database. So what I've just done is to come in the home, since already we had created that from home, picked it from here and then changed it to the student controller. So having changed it here, so you have to go also in your web.php, that's the route. So you have to check your routes here, down around here, look for web.php and then come to the routes. When you check the routes, already we are returning this index, but on the home controller. But mind you, remember, we have now changed this index to come to the student controller. Therefore, we have also to change here. Instead of calling the home controller, we are going to check the student controller. So simply what we are trying to do is we want to ensure that we are working with the student controller alone, because the operations we are doing, we want to ensure that we can be able to create a student. The student is viewed in the database, then we use the index page to return back that student, and we display that student to the user. So that's what we have done here. So when you check closely, this is what we have. Now, having created this already, yes, having created this already, so we can now first try to run and see whether we shall still see this page without anything being broken. So you know very well which command we use to run this. It's simply php at sun serve, then you run this. So just click on php at sun serve, then you run that. Okay, php at sun serve, then you run that. Okay, so we are waiting for this to run. It might take some time, but it has to run. For the first time when you're running, it might take like about at least a minute, and yes, it has eventually run. So you have to copy this. You just simply highlight this and you copy Ctrl+C, but you place it a little bit slight, don't overpress it, so that you don't kill this from running. So you come here and you run this. Then we want to see whether we can be able to see our index page, because if you can see very closely, what we have just changed is the controller, but the rest has remained the way they were. Looking at our previous tutorials, we had already created these ones, so you can see very well that we are simply now testing whether when we run this, nothing is breaking, before we can now see how are we going to be able now to return back that data. So that's what we are going to see now. That's what we are to see now. Okay, so we are waiting for it to run. Yes, at times it can take some few minutes, basing on how the application is heavy. Oh, sorry. So you see now this error. I'm receiving this error. They are telling me no connection could be made because the targeted machine actively refused the blah blah blah. So now when you look at this error, as I told you in all our tutorials, that whenever you see an error, please do not get worried. Actually, you should be happy because there is something new that you're going to learn. Now, having looked at this error, so for me, of course, since I have coded for years, I can now know that this error is coming as a result because I didn't run my I didn't run my XAMPP. If you can check closely, Apache is running but my SQL was not running, so the database was not being recognized. So I had to ensure that both the Apache is running and my SQL is running. So if I happen to refresh again, so it has to run. You can see, I think that's why it was taking too long to run, because it was about to throw an error. So when I check closely now, everything is running as expected, nothing has broken. So since now nothing has broken, so we are going to instead use this index page. It's where we shall be able to display our data. So we want that on this page we can be able to display the data there. Now, how do we proceed then? What we have done first was to create this index. Yes, in the video we had already created it, but what I mean in the first step is to create the index page. Having created it, you have to go to the controller and check for the index function, and then you link that index view, which is this one, to the index function here. As you have seen, we have returned it here, so we are trying to notify the controller about the existence of this index. Now, having created the index and then linked it to the controller, you have to come to the web.php, which is a route. Under the route, there is a file called web.php, and then you have to create a route for that. But since already we had that route, what we had to change was simple, is to change the controller. Instead of calling the home controller, since we had shifted the route, we wanted to use the student controller, so we had to just change the student controller here instead of home. The rest could remain the same, because now when we point at this student controller, we point at its function, which function is index, and then the name should remain index. When I check back here, this is what I mean. So in the controller there, I'm pointing at the index function where I saw index, and then the name is still index. So index is this one, this is the function that you're pointing at. Then this name index is, we shall use it during the routing. So that's it. So nothing has broken. Now we can proceed with now how do we then retrieve data in the database. But before we retrieve that data, we need to create kind of like a table, because now we want to view that data here, but we can't now just scatter it on the page. So we want to control it through creating a page, rather a table onto that page. So I'm going to change this content. Instead of saying that this is our home page, I'll just say display students. So I want to display students, so that's what I'm creating here, display students. Okay, I think this is AI that is trying to do for me, so let me first disable this. I want to be able to code and you can see what I'm coding. So now, having created that one as display, so what I will do next is now to come and create a table. So I'll call a table. Yes, I will create a table. Now within this table, remember we need what we call the TRs, the table rows, and then we create the TDs, the table data. Then I'll have also to create another TD. Now as you're creating this, already we know that you know this from HTML knowledge. Yeah, from your HTML knowledge, you have to be knowing how to create these ones. So we are not going to waste a lot of time here. I'm hoping that already you know what we are creating. Actually, from here we can first of all ask how many whatevers we shall need. If you remember our last tutorial, we had already 3, so I'll push this one a little bit down, then I'll create another TR. Yeah, then within this TR I'll create the TH, the table heads. Yeah, the table heads, there are 3. Now where am I getting this? Maybe right now you might get a little bit lost. Now looking at this already, you know from your HTML knowledge, this is the table. Now these are table rows. Yes, these are table rows, and then these are table datas. So what we are trying to do, if we can check our, okay, let's check our migration. If we can check closely onto this, already we created these 3 fields. We created the name, the email, and the program. So it's what we are trying to reference here. So instead of this one will be the name, then this one we shall be having the email, and then lastly this one is the program. Yeah, so when you check closely and you save this, when I check again and I hit refresh, I'll be having something like this, but we are not seeing any data here yet. So let me just add some small CSS just to ensure that maybe certain things are viewed very well. So I'll just say border 1, and then I'll use also a cell padding. There's something called cell padding, and then I'll equate it to still cell padding will be like maybe 10, just to ensure that data is well spaced. Then I'll just so I wanted to have something similar to this. Hopefully that is fine. So now the data which we shall be displaying in these rows here should be coming from the database. So this is simple HTML and CSS. So you already know this, how to create a table, and these are just syntax for HTML. So we shall see how do we then now create our Laravel within here. So you see where I've left blank is where we shall be calling our Laravel here, around here. Yeah, so okay, now within here, anyway, maybe let me add more things here. Let me just say these are table heads, and then I will wrap this one inside the table head, because now I don't want you to get lost. Yeah, then these ones are table rows. Now let me say this is table body, so that now we can tell that now we are working with the body or we are working with the rows. Yeah, so I'm not teaching HTML, that's why I'm not wasting a lot of time. So I've said now this is the table body, this is the table head. Nothing is going to change from the other side, it will remain the same, just that I was trying to organize my things here, so that now the THs are inside the table heads here, and the T body is the one that we shall display the data from. So that's what we are trying to do. So now we have created this already. Yeah, now having created this already, you have now to go to the controller here under the student controller, and then we remember we want to return that data here. We want to return that data here. So how do we return that data? Now check very closely. If you recall, in our previous tutorial we used a one command to create both all the controller, to create the migration and the model. Now when you create that, by default in your controller they import that model by default for you. That's why we are able even to use that model as we are saving the data in the database. Now we want to see how do we then have to retrieve using the same model. So to retrieve, we are going to use the same function, this index function. Why? Because we want to see that data on this page called index. So therefore all the operations are going to be done within here. Make sure you're within here. So what do you do first? You create you create this. This is what? This is you have to create this student, which is a variable, and then you equate it to a student, which is now a model, but mind about the name student, which is a model. Then you use these full colons and then you say all. Now then you terminate. Now this line you're seeing, this one, yeah, it is equivalent to the other SQL statement of select, yeah, select all. You remember those things, select all from table, then you specify, let's say table is called student. Now if you remember in your DDP knowledge, you have already covered these ones in here too. So you're going to realize that now this one, this cast statement alone, is equivalent to the other select all from. So for us now in Laravel, we simply just use this one, select, yeah. So this is student all. So we are simply meaning, make sure that you go to our table this and you pick all the students that have been created for us. That's what we have done in this line. Then having created this, you have to come inside this and then you put a comma here within this return view inside the brackets. Then you use the word compact, then into bracket, and then use single, then you call the variable, which is student. But here the variable we are calling, actually there should be called students instead of student. So the variable, you have to change it here, instead of student, let it be called students. Then also you come here and you check it as students. So look at this very closely. We have put just a comma here. We have not disabled these quotes. Leave them the way they are. Then just put a comma here. Then use the word compact. Then you call the variable. The same variable name you have passed here is what you call within here, but don't add a dollar sign. Yeah, you don't add a dollar sign. You just leave it the way they are here, and then you save. That's what you do. You have to do like this. Then after that, we have already linked we have already created that query that picks data from the database. Now back to the controller here. Now we have to go to this route, this one, and then we are able now to write some of the function that is going to do the actual displaying of data. And what do we do there? We are going to write what we call a for each loop. There is something called a loop. Remember, in your knowledge from even Java, we had what we call the for loop, where you had to say for, then you specify the data and which array you're going to use to pick that data. So even in Laravel, we use the same concept. We use what we call a loop to pick that data. And how do we call that loop? We simply come here. You see where my cursor is, in the table body, up here, not inside that tr, but outside, and then you write the word for each. Now already Laravel will give you a hint. Now you just click on this, and now we have this. So you have to wrap now these ones. You see where the tr is ending from, but don't cut with this, and then you paste it in between here. So that now we have that trs and these ths inside. Yeah, you have to this. Okay, so this is what I want. So this is the for each loop, and then it is wrapped inside within here. So we have to change these ones. Instead of collection, now we have to link to what you have linked in the controller. If I happen to check my controller here, which variable name have I passed in the compact? This one. Yeah, it's what I have to take now to the bread here. So instead of collection, I have to instead say this is students. Then students, instead of item, I will say students. I want to use the array, which is called the student, and I will be able to pick each individual student, and I will be able to display that student. So I will say student. Then I come inside here. I use these ones. They are called curly braces, double. Now in between the double, I will now call the student variable, which I have picked. Then I will link it to the name first. Yeah. Then I will do the same. For the other variables. Okay, maybe even if I first stop from there, let me first stop from there and I show you. If I happen to run this and I hit refresh, you see that I'll be able to display my name here, Mosh, because already if we are to check in the database, we created that person called Mosh. So when I come back here, I have to do the same for the rest. I can simply just copy this, yeah, and I paste it here, then also paste it here. Then I will simply change this. Instead of this one name, it will be email, and then this one will be program. You mind about the spelling, program. Then when I happen to save this and I hit refresh, if I save and I hit refresh, I'll be able to see my name, then the email, and then the program that I do. So it's what we have in the database. So now we have already successfully been able to display data back to the page. But let me just walk you through the steps that we have done. First of all, we created our view called index.bread.php, which was empty. We just said this is the home page. Now, having created our bread, we had to go ahead and then we link that bread to the controller. Remember, we had already created that bread inside the home controller, so we shifted it from the home controller back to the student controller, and then we just returned that view here. Now, after returning the view, we had to go to the route, and then we update the route about that new view that we want to link. So since already in the route we had created this with the home controller, so we changed it to the student controller, but we left everything the way they are. So we had to check, and then we ran this to see that that page is being displayed, nothing is broken. Now after that, now the actual way of retrieving data from the database, you have to come to your controller, which is the student controller in this aspect, and having created the same steps that you run PHP artisan, then make model, you use the same command to create both the model, the migration, and the controller. So we had already imported this. Yeah, if you can see closely, we had already imported this student whatever, so you don't need to import it. You simply just need to come here and you create a variable called students. You equate it to its model, which is student, and then you use the all. Now this all method is equivalent to the select all from, so this we just say all and then we use this. Now this is what we call the Eloquent ORM, the Eloquent relation mapping. We are simply using its power of ORM to ensure that we can be able to retrieve data from the database. Then from this, we have to come to this return view inside the same bracket. Inside this view bracket, we have to put a command, then we add the word compact. So compact is the one that bundles our data. The data, remember, when you call this one, it's going to get all the students and then it creates an array of students. That's why we are using this variable called students. So we want to create an array. Remember, an array is the data type that accepts a several number of items to be stored in a single variable. So this is the single variable called students, and then we wanted to create an array of those students. So we use the compact method. This word is called compact, and we call the same name, but you don't add the $sign. You same name of the variable that you have passed here. That's why it's called students. So compact is just a method that we use in Laravel to bundle our data with the view. So we have already now bundled this data, which is like an array, yeah, and then we have bundled it around here. That's why we are able now to go to that particular view here, and then we use a for each loop. Yeah, we use a for each loop, and then we are able now to pick now that data. Remember, when you use a loop, we are simply trying to check from each array. Remember, we have created an array of students, so we are assuming we have a number of students here. So we use a loop to ensure that we can pick each individual student, and we shall be able to display that student. So you can see here that we are able to have this, and then we are able to display that student. So we used this, then we said for each student. Now that's why I say students as students. So we want to go into the array of students and then we pick a student. That's why you're seeing this. Then we want that as we pick that student, we pick his name, his email, and program. Then when we run this, we are able to see this. So if I open another tab here, and then I want to route to the create. Already we have this create. If you recall our previous tutorial in the web.php, we created this route called create, and it's the one that has the create page. So I will now create another person. Maybe let me call this person maybe Jorin. Yeah, call that person Jorin, and now we say maybe it's jorin@gmail.com, this email, and then the program she does, let's say maybe let me say bachelor's, she does poem. Let me say she does poem is the program. Then I submit. Now when I submit and I come back here at the display page, when I hit refresh, I'll be able to see that same student here. You can see that when we save the data in the database, we are able to retrieve that data in the database using this method. So the steps are very simple. You have to ensure that you follow what we have is what you write. Do not create your own. Yes, so that's what we had in this tutorial, and yes, we shall be able to see another tutorial of how do we then now edit, how do we delete, and how do we update. But for now, we are able to see we started from where we are able to create. Now we are able to retrieve that data and we are able to display it to the database. So let's catch up in another tutorial. Thank you so much.